Hey there, thank you for joining me in this short video. In this video, what we're going to be looking at is as SQL grouping, which is part of SQL binding which is part of binding in SQL in Einstein analytics. What we want our user to be able to do in this with this is, for example, here we have sum of amount grouped by industry. We want our user to be able to select the product, what they want, the field in which they want this data to be grouped by, or this sum of amount to be grouped by. In this case, is grouped by industry. Then we want to bind this toggle with this widget or with this table in such a way that when a user comes here and they select product name, they should see sum of amount grouped by product name. And if they select industry, in this case it's already defaulted to industry, they should be able to see that, or they can even be able, they should be able to group this sum of amount by product name, in product family, product name, and even industry at the same time. To do that, we need to do a SQL grouping binding in these for the SQL that we have in this data in this widget. Before you continue watching this video, I would strongly suggest that you go watch my video that I did on as SQL select, because you need to be able to understand that video in order to understand how SQL grouping works. Again, go have that video link in the description section of this video. That way you can go watch that video before you come and continue watching this one. So what we're going to do is, if I go to edit mode here, I just wanted to show you the SQL that we have SQL. It just select industry as industry, sum of amount as sum of amount from the data set group by industry. This is important because I want you to understand that in grouping in SQL, you have to select the field in which you're grouping the data by. If you don't have industry here and you just select whatever field you want to, or you just select sum of amount group by industry, this query is going to fail. And that's very important to understand. Back to my query. So what we need to do first is we need to come here, we go to advanced editor. Now we go to our query. So this is the query that we have. This is a query that we saw. So we're going to go here and we're going to go into the static step. So we're saying this is a display here that we have in our toggle. We have our expression here, and when we have our alias, I also added another field here, which is grouping. So this is the field in which we're going to be grouping our data on. So the first thing I need to do here is I need to do my select. So I want that when you select industry, you should have industry selected here, and then you should have that same industry here being grouped by that field. So what I need to do here, I'm going to go to my static step here. I'm going to do select. Again, you need to go watch the video that I did all of this. So now I've written my binding for the industry for the select part, and again, go watch the video. You're going to see the details of this. So that is it for my select. Now the part that we're focusing on is as grouping. So I'll go to my static step again. In my static step, which we already saw here, I have something called grouping, which is this one. So what I am going to do is, I've selected that here. I am going to select a column, because what I want to do is, I want it to the data selection function. I'm going to select column because I want the user to be able to select multiple columns. You see, when you select columns here, it's going to give this array. That way you can add multiple, you can select multiple column here. So the column that I want to select is going to be the grouping, right? The column that I want the user to use is going to be the grouping based on this one, based on our data preview that we had here. So we have grouping here. So now it's going to be grouping by product family, product name, and industry. It's going to be selection, because the user will click at the toggle to select what they want the widget to be grouped by. Then we have here as grouping, SQL grouping. That's a selection that's happening. Then, so this is your data serialization, right? This is your data binding for as SQL grouping. You have your data function here, selection function here. Sorry, you have your selection function here. Then you have, we know that we're doing selection. This is the field from which our data is, or the column from which our data is coming from, the field that we're going to use to group our data on. Then we have our data serialization. Then we have our data set here, and we're using this is as data type. This is the data type that we're looking at. So now this is the way your binding for grouping is going to be, but we have to default it to something because in this case it's returning nothing. And so what we're going to default it to is we will default it to industry. That way, as soon as the user load that widget, it's just going to default, it's just going to group by industry before they start doing their selection. So I'm going to use my qualities here, and then I'm going to add this here, then it's going to default to industry. And I'm using industry here because we defaulted our data as selection to industry. It's very important because if you don't have industry in your select statement, you can't group your data by industry. That's very, very important. Now, one other thing I want to add here is that here you have an option to add a false or true. And what does this mean? Default is false. So if I put false here, nothing's going to change. But if I put true here, look at what's happening. Now it's saying that group by industry. This is in the case where you want to bind from this group by to the field name. You can do it through here. But in this case, what we want to bind is just the field name here. The field that we have here, we don't care about the group by, but you could do it. It's the same thing. It's going to return the same result in this case. And so this is what we want. And all I need to do here is now, since I don't want to group by, I don't want to bind the group by aspect, I'm just going to take this out again. The default is false, so it's going to have just industry. Then I'm going to copy this. I will replace this group by here with that. Replace that. And now, so what we have now is we're going to default this select statement into industry, and we're also going to default the group by into industry. And so when I save this, it should be able to have that. And then when I preview this, what you're going to realize is that we have group by. But now if the user says, oh, I want to group this table by product family, they can select that, and it's grouping now by product family here, accessory and all of that. And they can also group by product family and product name. And then you're going to have product family here and product name. And then they can also group by product family, product name, product industry and industry. And then you could have all of that here. So we're summing our amount, we're grouping by industry, product name, we're grouping by product family, product name, and industry. And you could do just one. So if I want to just say, now default is always industry, right? That's how we set it to be. So if I do product name here, you're going to have just group by product name. And this is the power of SQL grouping in binding SQL in Einstein Analytics. Thank you once more for joining. Bye for now.